Hi, this is Jules. I thought I'd make a little mental health first aid kit. This is just 6 little tips which I found helpful in the last few days. So the first idea is that it's okay not to know. There has been a sudden epidemic of new epidemiologists. A week ago, I didn't even know what that word meant. Now suddenly everybody seems to be an expert and to have their opinion about what's the right way to deal with this crisis, what the government's doing wrong, and so on. And it's just okay to admit that we don't know everything. We're not an expert. We don't have to have an opinion about everything. We don't have to share that opinion with everyone. I think of Socrates, the Greek philosopher, who really taught the wisdom of admitting what you don't know. I think he and his successors taught that often our need for over certainty, our desperate need for certain stories, often causes us suffering, and we can let go of that and learn to tolerate ambiguity and uncertainty without reaching for the false security of overconfidence. So that's the first idea. We can accept not knowing everything. We can accept ambiguity and uncertainty, even though it's uncomfortable. The second idea is that all adversity is training. This is a central idea in all the great wisdom traditions, that we can do this kind of flip, so that instead of just seeing adversity as completely awful and catastrophizing about it, we can see it as an opportunity to grow in wisdom and in maturity and in emotional intelligence and in spiritual strength. So it's a central idea in Stoicism. Epictetus said, difficulties reveal people's character. Therefore, when adversity affects you, consider that the universe has matched you with a tough sparring partner. Now, that doesn't mean just always putting on a kind of stiff upper lip and just being afraid of ever showing fear or difficult emotions to other people. You can have a wiser approach to this idea. Particularly, I think of the teachings of Pema Chodron, who is a Tibetan Buddhist. Well, she's Western, but trained in Tibetan Buddhism. And she wrote 2 books which are super helpful for this kind of situation. One's called The Places That Scare You, and the other is called When Things Fall Apart. And she says that just as the Stoics teach, we can welcome difficult experiences as opportunities for growth. We can also welcome difficult emotions when they arise and see them as fuel for our training, as compost for our spiritual growth. So when you feel fear or anxiety or sadness or anger or bewilderment, rather than pushing it away and struggling against it and saying, I mustn't feel that, just go, well, this is what's happening now, and I accept that, and I can, practice noticing and mindfulness and acceptance and compassion in whatever arises. So whatever arises, that's the next lesson, that's the next training session. And Socrates taught that actually to philosophize is to learn how to die, that every difficult experience is training for that kind of final experience that every being is going to go through. And I think probably a certain amount of people's fear and anxiety at the moment is the fear of death, and that's totally natural. But we're all unlikely to die in this pandemic, but we are going to eventually. So we can use this this kind of collective near-death experience, this brush with death, to train for that final experience that we are going to go through.